Hi, this is Cathy, and we're going to paint irises. So I have a handout that I sent along that shows various irises. I've sketched this one, this one, this one. I'm going to do this iris today for the class. So I've made a little thumbnail sketch here of the values, lights and darks. So if I show you the first one that's on the handout, I've already sketched this one, and I'm going to paint it later and share that with you. This is the second iris, and by the way, on the handout sheet, this iris is from the Boone Yard, and the other day I went out and spent 10 minutes, literally just 10 minutes, doing a quick sketch that bloom from the photo. This is my sketch with just a pure white background. And then I took a chance at doing a second sketch from that very same iris here that I've sketched from the photo. This one I did from life, and I've used the complementary colors to paint it. And then this is the last one I have sketched. So all four of the examples I will have for you and your choice. The other option you have, of course, when you go to paint the irises is to look for your own references. At Mother's Day, I did tulips. So my children had gifted me tulips, and though I left the background white, it was just a study. Sometimes what we're doing when we're doing our watercolor painting, we're working on a watercolor as a work of art, but sometimes you're doing a watercolor in a sketchbook as a study, and so it's perfectly fine either way. I use large sheets. Now this is only a small sheet right here, but I take larger sheets of watercolor paper and I work with a 140-pound cold press. And if you wanted to make a smaller sheet, there's several quick ways of getting your paper torn into the size you want. For example, if you wanted to make 4 studies and you wanted all your paintings to be small, you could take a large sheet like this and tear it into 4 small pieces. I usually tape it to a cardboard, which cardboard is not necessarily your best bet for leaving your painting on because it has acid in it. But if you just keep it on there temporarily long enough to get your paintings done. And so here I can get 4 small little paintings, or if you choose and you have another reference for the irises, then what you could do is do a composition of several irises. Remember that when we're designing, we want to work with a rule of thirds. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to do one iris, and I'm choosing to do the one I think is a little more complicated. And I hope you'll be able to see my sample, and I'll just get started with the painting. First I have to draw it though. So let's see. I think you can, I'll do this. Maybe the reference I have can be seen right here. So this is the flower I'm going to look at. Do you know I photographed that flower several years ago. It's so exotic. It's got yellow in it. It's got magenta. It's got some purple. And I photographed that flower over at Airmont School of Arts and Crafts. I was so taken by that particular flower. Now this study that I've made is going to help me with where the lights and darks are. So let me sketch it first. I'm just going to go by my reference here. And I'm going to make this flower very large because I want this to be I don't want a lot of background or negative space. And speaking of negative space, look at this little hole right here. That is a negative area. And I can just look at that and I know that that area is going to be dark. And this is a petal that's kind of curved up. And I'm really just examining that shape. And I'm putting in some little minor lines here that I see. And I want to give, oh, you know what? This is a shadow that comes across. I just realized that I think this is more of a curved line right here. I want to capture that correctly. Now that shadow does come rather abruptly across here, but I'm going to try to keep the shadow that I see. Now here, this piece of the iris comes, this is that fuzzy shape right here. And this is a beautiful color here, and it's partially in shadow. I might change that shadow just a little bit, but I will stick as closely to the photograph as I feel I should. And I'm just indicating where I see the yellows here. Okay, and then this is a lovely petal. Ooh. And let's see, there, I guess I'm close enough. I always like to shift my stem so it's not in the middle. I wonder if I can move it over this direction. In my sketch, I made it to the left, but I'm going to change my mind and move it a little bit to the right. So I might be changing the way I add the leaves, and for designing purposes. All right. Ooh, look at this beautiful patterning that's happening here. Just a few lines should help me remember where my yellow goes and where my purple goes. All right. So I move the stem over, and I love to have this overlap. I think that stem will be seen all the way down. Now, unless I decide to put a leaf in here. Ah, not bad. Although that's a bit of a tangent, so let me bring that out. I don't like for things to be right on right. A tangent is when two things are just budding. You want the overlap. So I really don't see the leaves so much. I want to have a feeling of maybe I need to let that go. Oh, I'm always questioning myself about these leaves. But let's get some in because they're going to need to be secondary to the design. So I've got a hole here and I need something in that direction. So that may work. That may work. I want to keep this heavy at the bottom and light at the top. All right, so what are the colors I'm going to be using? So on my palette, I'm going to need color for the flower, and I need a bright yellow. This is that Joe's Lemon Yellow. And I'm going to need to use the magenta. Well, it's not really a lot of pink in there. There's more of that purple. So it's going to be pale, except for where I have the here. Now that may need a little rose madder. Let's put a little rose madder here. And then we're going to need our greens. And the greens, we'll use, again, that yellow green, that skips green. There'll be a lot of that. And I'm going to, there's my brush going right in, contaminating my color. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna over here to dull that green. You never want to use that bright viridian green right out of, as they say, right out of the tube. See how bright that is? I mean, it's a beautiful color, obviously, but you just don't find that in nature. And when you add a red or a brown to it, you get a closer color to what's really there in nature. Okay, so my palette has a little bit of color and I'm ready to go. I'll start with my paper towel too. I'm going to paint the flower because I have to make some decisions about the background. Now, I may move this out of the way just a little bit, but I'm going to be referencing my photo, so I like to have it handy. In other words, I like to reference what's going on in here. This is very pale, so I want to make my darks in the background. I'll begin with that lovely yellow. And I'm putting just a dot of that orange. Just felt inclined to go ahead and place that and observe where I see some of that darker little bits, little hints of that darker yellow. And now I'm going to just use the pale yellow. Oh, and here's where it really is. It's not so much here. No, I think that's more pink. The yellow kind of creeps into where the pink is going to go. There is definitely some yellow there. Oh, that's the stem. Okay, let's see. There's a little yellow, pale yellow here, and a little pale yellow here. So that's going to kind of bleed right into where that magenta goes. That purple, actually. So my rose madder magenta, and honestly, this is really tinted purple. I'm going to just let that be. Now there's some little shadow folds that I'll come back to. And I had identified this as a light spot. And then this is more of a shadow color. You know, we are working with the complementary colors of purple and yellow in this. Can I use that to my advantage? Can I make this painting have that feeling of complement and contrast through the use of these complementary colors? Also, it tends to neutral and make the shadow feeling. I think I had made that little spot to keep it white, but now I see the white in here and these little glow patterns there. They might be a little bit too strong, but I like them, and maybe I can, if I don't like them later, I'll get rid of them. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that, I think, just to give it a little bit. And then I say a little bit and then I take it off because I don't want much there. This is next my really strong color. I would say that if I mix my magenta and you see this color is lighter and that color is darker, and this color is darker because it's shadowed. Okay, but this is really quite magenta. Maybe I'm going to do this one first. So I did not wet these petals. Instead, wait a minute, keep looking. You have to keep looking because, boy, it's really light right there. And then it gets darker. Then it gets darker as this moves up. And my brush stroke, I do want to keep, now I did widen my, I did widen this just a little bit so that I could have that overlap on the leaf. And I did want to lighten this. And then I wanted to see if I can't drag these lines. Hopefully it's starting to dry enough. I have my window open here, and I can hear the creek. I hope it's, I can also hear the birds outside my window, which is lovely. I hope it's not distracting. But the window open helps my painting to dry. It's a little bit of a breeze coming in. So I am dragging, I just picked up some more magenta and purple. And I know I'm going to have to go a little darker, but I don't know if this is going to stay. I may have to come back and dry brush over that. I have a feeling I will, but that's okay. Next, I'm going to work with that same magenta. You know, honestly, I have to put purple over here where the shadow is. It's just way too dark. Wow, looks like it's going to be two different things, but we'll see. I may have to introduce a little bit of purple on the other side. Now, these patterns, I'm looking at them, and here's what I'm looking at is just that little detail that's in there. It's lovely, but more than I had anticipated to have to draw. Let's see. Okay, it just continues to come around, and then it becomes more solid. All right. So I'm following the color I see, and then this just makes the shadow shape, and then this becomes the magenta, and there's such a hard edge that I feel like I'm gonna put in those stripes that I'm actually seeing. I feel like I'm going to have to add just a hint of shadow to this side so that you'll know that they really are the same color. It's just about the shadows. All right, so I will let this dry before, let me see, maybe I can put in a few of those lines. Okay, let's see. All right, so next, let's see. Maybe this is getting a little, I'm covering up what's going on here at the bottom. So let me see, can we see the top now and the bottom? What I have left to do, of course, down here, and I'm looking, this needs to be a brighter pink, I think. So let me see if I can add that right now. And I'll also allow this to dry a little bit, and I can apply that there as well. Yes, this is more true to the color. Wow, is that not beautiful? Wow, that's really pretty color. Okay. Now I'm going to feed this back in. This is an iris that has a lot of variation in it, where some of the others have a little less variation. Some, like the yellow ones that I did, I just had to deal with lights and darks. Here, there's quite a bit of color, and that's what makes this pretty exciting. And now there's some blending of the green here, and I'm going to go ahead and put my magenta here where it is not shadowed, and see if I can't drag a little bit more of that color. And even though I don't really see that purple, I think it needed to be there. And I sense a little more of a shadow edge here, and I want to deepen the color that's right here. There's another little bit of a shadow here, and so I'm observing where I see these dark spots in the folds of the flower. It'll read as a shadow. Shadow here and a shadow there. It's what we have. Okay. And there's really a little bit of an edge up here that I'm observing. And I need to soften that line, but it's there. And it really does have a little wavy. Okay, I think my yellow will show through. And next I wanted to move this into the green. Now, the green is going to start with that lovely green, which is going to be catching some light. In other words, the light seems to be coming, well, let's see here. Where are my shadows? My shadows are here. I guess it's an overhead light, but I could sense a little light here, so I wanted to have a little light bouncing there. Then I will continue this stem. sometimes there's just a touch of a shadow on one side, which helps to make a stem read. And then I'm going to put a little blue, touch of blue into my green, because I think those leaves, they're very tall and wonderful. They have a touch of blue. That might be too bright. So I'm adding yellow. That's a pretty color. I'm going to go put a little more blue in it. I want a contrast, and I'm going right next to that edge. You know, I had decided that this flower needed contrast. So once I have these leaves in, I want to make the background really dark and bold. And this isn't far off from the color. I'm still going to put a little more color in here. And so I'm glad I have my puddles all in place. And bring down these, get these leaves in here. You know, you don't always have to go with complementary colors. I guess because I'm emphasizing it, it's just a great way for contrast. But I was recently looking at a friend's painting who had done some beautiful irises, and she had picked up on the purple, blue, green. Now that's sort of an analogous color scheme, which means that purple, green, and blue are all next to each other on the color wheel. And because her whole painting, it had just a hint of yellow, but the rest of the painting was all cool, and it made for an absolutely gorgeous painting. So not as you look at references and you start to see iris paintings that appeal to you, perhaps you will determine that a different color scheme, rather than a purple yellow or a blue orange or a red green. Of course, we're going to find irises mostly in the yellow family or the blue, yellow, purple. So it just comes to mind that that is a good complementary. Here we had a complementary flower, so it worked. All right, once my stems are in, I'm not making them very exciting, but I'm thinking that when they're dry, I'll come back with a little dry brush to suggest the veins. And so I have developed the design. I guess this one's going down, maybe it ends up over here in the background. And I did want it darker at the bottom. I'm thinking that I'm going to play with some purple in the background, a red purple to complement the green, and perhaps a little blue purple just to complement the yellow hint of orange. So what begins to happen next, since all of this is rather dark, now there's a wall here or some indication, I want this to really show up. So I'm going to keep this fairly dark up here. I'm also going to get darker down here and try to keep the middle a little bit light. In order to do that, I'm going to begin with my water, and I'm going to paint around these shapes, which is putting in a lovely soft background of a color. I think I'm drier up here where my flower was finished up. So my leaves are still wet, in other words, so I'll begin here. This is going to be a dark shape there. I know that I want to do that. And this is too wet to be going right next to that particular leaf. When I was doing my irises outside and did my two yellow irises, I had bees, butterflies, and ants come to visit me. So there are things about it. It's so nice to sit outside, and when you do enjoy nature, as I hope all of you get a chance to do, I forgot to paint that little tip there. You will find that once, oh, I won't go into that. Just be careful when you're outside, and bugs can get you. I kind of like what happened here with the stem. So sometimes bug spray helps, although I don't like using bug spray. And the true color, I think I'm a little bright on these leaves. When I really observed that there was a lot of blue in my, all right, I know I want to have some darks in my background. And whoa, that's not a very pretty color. I want some purple, and I do want some green. And I do want to create a nice dark for here. And so some of that might be in a blue-green or a blue-purple. So let me see how that works. This is pretty dark. I said dark, but I'm not sure I really, yes, I did intend to go that dark. Okay. And the disadvantage of working quickly like I'm doing is that not everything gets dry like it's supposed to get dry. Is right here. Well, I like this color now. It doesn't have a lot of variation to it. Now I know this is dry enough. And this is that nice little hole, that nice little negative space that I wanted to capture. And right here, I'm bleeding into that space. And I did want to stop that. So the iris is really going to pop now with this nice dark around it. And I am moving between a blue and a green and a purple. I think the blue I just picked up was a cobalt. But there's something about that, I want to put the magenta with it because I don't want to deviate too much from my color scheme. I talk about that, and then I need to stick with my plan. Although sometimes when you're painting, if you change your mind, remember that's your, we're artists, we can't help it. Now, here's where I've got to be careful. I want the dark next to this flower, but this center part, my plan was to keep it a little on the light side. Let's see if I can go next to that. And so I've got to, and this requires working very quickly. I'm wedging in this little dark shape right here. And maybe I can afford to put a little dark right in here and right in here. But from here down, I need to get lighter. So I'm adding a little magenta and the water to keep this a bit on the light side. Because next to these darks, my water's drying very quickly on me. So I'm going to have a bloom right here. What I just applied, that water is going to seep around. Maybe it'll be to my advantage. Okay, so I'm finishing up the painting right now, but I want to get a little dark, back to the dark here, and I want to move more into the green. So my colors are suggesting that the background continues. So it's nice because they kind of run, the colors do run together. And I want to follow that stem down just a little bit and keep my edge nice and neat. I guess I'm letting that leaf. Obviously, I've got to do a little touch up when this is all finished, but we're on the end here. Get a little more of that green going. I have to darken it with the blue. I have to darken it with the blue and a little bit of the purple so that my background has that nice wet look. And I'm not sure, hopefully you can see down here as well. And here, by putting in some strokes, it could appear that, I know I'm going to go over some of this because it's a little bit bright. And I want those, let me show you, a little bit of dark through here will help. And even getting that dry brush, there's a little bit of dry brush showing up. I want to do a little bit more on that, but here we have finished pretty much the background. And I'm going to say, other than my obviously having to come and touch up where a lot of white is still showing on some of the edges. And honestly, I might end up doing some more dark leaves through here. I feel like this is a little empty down here. This is pretty much finished, but I don't want those white edges. So I'm gonna do a little touch up. But for now, I'm gonna say that we are finished. Okay.